first thing the neighbors noticed was the smell. Long before anyone realized, the house was hiding something far worse than death. There's a small town outside of Portland, Oregon. A place so unremarkable that it barely makes it onto the map. Just rows of modest houses, sleepy streets lined with pine trees, and a kind of heavy silence you only find in places where nothing important ever happens. The kind of town where people still leave their doors unlocked. At least they used to. The house on Willow Lane had always looked a little wrong, even when it was still alive. The shutters hung unevenly, the paint peeled like sunburned skin. Children crossing the street would quicken their steps, never daring to look too long at the windows, those empty staring eyes. In 2017, after an ugly whispered about divorce, the house was abandoned. Or so everyone believed. For a while it simply sat there, forgotten, left to rot. Then, in the summer of 2019, the complaints started. The first was from an old woman who lived 2 houses down. She called the city about a terrible smell, said it was like something had died and been left out in the sun. Then the Johnsons reported their cat, Mittens, had gone missing. Then Mr. Collins swore he saw lights flickering inside the supposedly empty house during a thunderstorm. But nobody wanted to deal with it. They all had their theories. Maybe squatters, maybe animals, maybe just the house decaying naturally. People are good at pretending when the truth feels too uncomfortable, until someone forces them to look. That someone was a group of teenagers. It was just supposed to be a dare, a dumb, drunken idea, cooked up on a muggy August night. While the crickets screamed and a storm gathered somewhere beyond the hills. 4 of them. Alex, the ringleader. Mia, his girlfriend, trying hard not to seem scared. Jaden, who swore he didn't believe in ghosts. And little Ben, the quiet one, always tagging along, always a little too eager to impress. They cut through backyards and vaulted over fences, laughing breathlessly, their sneakers flashing white under the sickly orange glow of street lamps. The bottle of whiskey passed between them, giving them just enough courage to step onto the overgrown lawn. Alex jimmied the back door open with a rusty crowbar he found lying by the shed. The door gave way with a wet, sticky sound, like something exhaling. A wave of hot, rancid air rolled out, heavy enough to make them gag. Inside, it was like stepping into another world, a world where time had collapsed and decay ruled. Wallpaper hung in curling sheets. Floors groaned under their weight. The smell was overwhelming, like rotten meat mixed with mold and something sour, almost metallic. There were dishes still in the sink, fossilized in filth. A child's toy sat abandoned on the living room floor, its bright plastic colors muted by dust and grime. But strangest of all, it looked like someone had tried to seal certain parts of the house shut. Doors were nailed closed with thick, rough planks. Heavy furniture barricaded hallways. "What the hell?" Mia whispered, her voice trembling. "Come on," Alex said. "We go down to the basement, take a selfie, and we're legends." In never considered turning back. The basement door was the worst. It wasn't just locked, it was sealed. Thick nails hammered into every edge. Chains looped across the doorknob, rusted and rattling faintly in the humid air. And there were marks. Deep, desperate gouges carved into the wood around the frame. At first glance, they looked like scratches made by fingernails. But when Mia leaned closer, she noticed something wrong. The spacing was off, too wide, as if the hands that made them weren't quite human. Jaden, emboldened by bravado and booze, grabbed the crowbar and started prying. The nails screamed as they were torn free. The chains clattered to the floor, sending up a cloud of dust that smelled like iron and rot. The door swung inward with a slow, aching creak, and a blast of freezing air hit them in the face, so cold it burned. Every flashlight flickered. For a heartbeat, the house seemed to hold its breath. Then, darkness. Total, complete darkness. In that suffocating black, they heard it. A slow, shallow breathing. Coming from below. They backed away, stumbling over each other. But Alex, ever the fool, muttered, "It's probably just a draft," and forced his flashlight back on. When the beam cut through the darkness, it caught something at the bottom of the stairs. A mattress. A filthy, sagging mattress, half buried under broken chairs and old clothes. And bolted to the walls on either side, thick iron chains. On the mattress, bones. Human bones. Small ones, child-sized, curled into a fetal position, as if whoever had died there had been trying to make themselves disappear. And above the mattress, scrawled across the crumbling wall in something dark and dry, "Do not let it out." Ben was the first to hear it, the skittering sound behind them. He spun, flashlight beam slicing wildly through the gloom. At the top of the basement stairs, something moved. Not walking, crawling. Thin twitching limbs. Pale skin stretched too tightly over sharp bones. Eyes, huge glassy black orbs, staring straight at them. And it was smiling. A wide, grotesque, human smile, stretched far too wide. The group screamed and bolted, scrambling out of the basement, shoving each other to be the first out the door. Jaden tripped and fell, scraping his knee, but Alex hauled him up by the arm. They didn't stop running until they were back in the middle of the street, panting, sweating, wild-eyed. When they looked back at the house, the front door was swinging slowly shut, as if something had gently pushed it closed from inside. The police were called. The sheriff's deputies entered cautiously, heavily armed, expecting maybe a meth lab, maybe squatters. They found no living person inside, only the remains in the basement, and something even stranger, the signs on the floor around the mattress, strange looping patterns burnt into the wood. Later, forensic teams would identify them as ancient sigils, symbols used in rituals of binding. DNA tests confirmed the smaller bones belonged to a missing girl from the next town over, abducted nearly a decade earlier. But the second set of remains? the larger broken bones chained to the wall. They didn't match anything in the national databases. The anthropologists who examined them said they were human, but wrong, twisted, malformed. Like evolution had been forced into a shape it was never meant to take. Locals soon pieced together a dark theory. The divorced couple who owned the house, Daniel and Carol Gray, weren't victims of a messy breakup. Carol had changed, and Daniel, he hadn't left her. He'd chained her down to contain whatever she was becoming. But something had gone wrong, very wrong. Not long after the investigation, the reports began. People hiking in the woods near Willow Lane spotted things moving between the trees, things that looked human from a distance, but moved with a jerky, insect-like wrongness. Farm animals started disappearing, pets vanishing without a trace. And then the nightmares started. Families in nearby homes reported waking up to find muddy handprints on their windows. Children spoke of shadowy figures watching them from the edge of the forest. And every so often, late at night, if you drove past the Willow Lane house, you could see a pale face peering out from behind the broken blinds, smiling. Some monsters die when you lock them away. Others just get patient. And when they finally slip the chains, they remember every single one of us who tried to forget them.